Okay then, technique number, what was it? 16. 16 is get more meta. And get more meta is a bit of a con really, because you already know about metaphor, which is what we're talking about here. But I had to disguise it because probably you learned about metaphor in school, and when you thought all that sort of stuff was quite kind of boring and not useful. But you're with me now, and I'm here to tell you that it is very interesting and very useful, particularly if you're trying to sell something. And I'll explain why, because I want to distinguish between two types of metaphor. So if I say something, for example, like my heart beat like a drum. Now that is something that you've heard before, obviously, it's a bit of a cliche. And as a metaphor, it's lost a lot of its power because of the way we process it. So the interesting thing about metaphor that's properly used is what metaphor does when it's properly used is it lights up different areas in the brain. You know, this is neuroscience now, and they can look at what happens in your brain when a good metaphor happens. So if I say, for example, he held the document in front of him like a weapon, like a loaded gun. That's not a metaphor you'll probably have heard before. He held the document in front of him like a loaded gun. And what happens in your brain is it creates this kind of simulation of a document, and it creates this simulation of a loaded gun. Your gun might be different from mine, but you know, they're both there, and it brings them together. And because the metaphor is activating two parts of the brain, the effect is more powerful. It's more persuasive. It's more visual. It's just, yeah, it works better. Whereas if I say his heart beat like a drum, you're way past the point where you're thinking about, well, so there's a heartbeat over here and there's a drum over here. It's just sort of noise. And actually, George Orwell wrote a great article about writing, and one of the things he kind of railed against really was the sort of the lazy use of metaphor, where so many writers were just sort of plugging and playing kind of worn-out metaphors together. But if you have the opportunity with your business and with your story to actually think of a metaphor that really works, it creates stickiness, it creates gravity, it creates memorableness. I mean, unfortunately, my mother-in-law is quite ill at the moment, and she was round for dinner the other day, and she was, really sort of struggling to breathe, really. And the thought that came to mind is that the noise her chest was making was, sounded like a storm coming. It was that kind of low kind of rumble in the distance that shows that things are going to be bad. And that kind of metaphor and that kind of language is much, much more memorable than the kind of corporate cliche speak that we get so much of the time. So if you're looking to build your story and make it kind of to differentiate yourself, which is one of the key reasons why we tell stories, if you're looking to differentiate yourself, harnessing the power of metaphor can literally light up your audience's brains in different ways. So it is well worth the work to do that. And that's technique number 15. Thanks very much. See you in the next video. No, it's not. It's technique number 16. Thanks very much again. See you in the next video.